Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming MCS exams happening in May 2026. My name is Nicholas and I'm one of the lead tutors and evaluators for MCS at TCS. So let's look at the session outcomes. First things first, I'm going to share some tips which will enable you to avoid the pitfalls you encountered last time when conducting your preparations, because I'm pretty sure that most of you who are part and parcel of this session, or some of you rather, who are part and parcel of this session, might have failed their MCS exams previously. So it's essential that you understand what your mistakes were and take steps to get rid of these issues when conducting preparations, because if you keep repeating the same mistakes, you will keep getting the same type of result. And also, most of you who are joining this sitting this exam for the first time, so it's essential that you understand what type of common mistakes are committed by students and take steps to avoid them when conducting your preparation. So that's what I'm going to discuss in the first part of this session. And then in the second part, which is the most important one, I'm going to teach you answering and time management techniques, because it's essential that you manage your time at your exam. If not, you are going to struggle at your real examination. And at the same time, if you want to manage your time, you need to adhere to an appropriate answering technique. So I'm not just going to teach you these two techniques, I'm going to explain how you should practically apply these two techniques by taking you through one of the questions taken from mock exam 1. To be precise, I'm going to take you through the first subtask of mock exam 1, thereby highlighting how we should apply these answering and time management techniques, which we are going to learn in a little while. So before we get into the technicalities, let me quickly remind you of the upcoming webinars and workshops we have scheduled for you. So the fourth webinar is happening next Sunday at 9 GMT. There's a confusion about GMT and BST. So 9 GMT means 10 AM UK or 10 BST. So in this fourth webinar, I'm going to teach you crucial stress management techniques, because as you know, the examiner is not just testing your theory knowledge and application. The examiner is also trying to figure out whether you can manage a stressful situation. That is why you are supposed to sit across 3 hours and attempt 4 sections, one after the other, without any breaks in between sections. So that's why it's essential that you know what to do when you are faced with a stressful situation, because at your exam, especially towards the last 2 sections, fatigue sets in. And when fatigue sets in, if you do not know how to manage your stress levels, you are going to struggle. So all these things will be taught in depth in next week's webinar. And also in the same webinar, I'm going to take you through examiner's comments, because it's essential that you understand what the examiner expects from you before you walk into your exam. And then we are kickstarting our workshop and masterclass series. And in each workshop, I'm going to explain what is contained within your F2, P2, and E2 syllabi. And at the same time, I'm going to direct your attention towards a masterclass focused on each syllabus area, which will be covered within either of these workshops and masterclasses. And in the final workshop, which happens just 2 or 3 days before your examination, I'm going to share some last-minute tips with you, with the prime intention of improving your motivation levels, because if you are confident before your exam, you will be confident during the exam. That is exactly what the CIMA examiner is telling us. So I'm going to motivate you guys just 2 or 3 days before your examination. So make sure to attend the final workshop as well. So attend each of these webinars and workshops on a weekly basis. It is best to attend them live, given the fact that you can benefit from the Q&A. And this is the best way to keep tabs about your performance on a weekly basis. So having said that, let's try to understand how we should rebound from a previous failure. So before you start preparing for your next retake, you need to figure out what went wrong last time, because as I mentioned earlier, if you do not understand your pitfalls, you will keep repeating the same mistakes. Therefore, you get the same type of marks. So if you have repeated this exam twice or thrice, you know what I'm talking about, because for instance, let's assume in your first sitting you got 60 odd marks, and you would see a similar score in your second and third sittings as well. Why is the case? Why is this the case? Given the fact that we have not, spent some time to really figure out what your shortcomings are. So I'm going to, talk about the top causes which leads to a failure in a little while. So, when I'm explaining each of these points, take a piece of paper and jot down the issues which you faced during the exam. So I'm going to highlight the issues, and if you experience any of these issues, jot them down, because in a little while, whilst talking about these issues, I'm also going to talk about the type of solutions which you can adhere to in order to overcome these issues. So write down the issues which I'm discussing. If you faced them previously, and when you know that you face these issues, you'd know what to do to avoid these issues, and if so, you will end up scoring better marks in your next sitting. So first things first, you need to conduct a personal reflection and try to figure out whether you gave your best shot or not. So you need to understand what went wrong in the exam. So you need to diagnose the reasons first and address them this time. If not, as I mentioned earlier, you'd keep repeating the same mistakes over and over, thereby achieving the same type of a score. So after you have conducted your personal reflection, you are supposed to refer to mock exams, suggested answers, and answer plans to figure out how each syllabus area or conceptual element can be tested, and tied to each syllabus area, what type of answers you are supposed to develop. So you can understand these things by referring to the mocks, suggested answers, and the answer plans. And the action plan should be to work smarter than the previous attempt. So I'm not asking you to work harder than the previous attempt. Simply, I'm asking you to work smarter than the previous attempt, which is simply to stick to the study plan. So within this webinar itself, I'm going to direct your attention towards the study plan, which I've explained in depth in the first webinar. If you missed the webinar, please watch the recorded version, which is available via our student dashboard as well as via our YouTube handle, because then you'd understand what you need to do when conducting preparation. Because I took some calls yesterday and day before. I said via the WhatsApp group, I said that if you fail to clear, I asked you guys to drop me a message, and I called each and every one of them. I've scheduled some calls for today as well. So if you missed this opportunity, if you failed previously, you can still drop me a message. I will always make time to do a 10 to 15-minute call with you. And when I had a chat yesterday and day before, what I understood is the fact that most students have done spent a considerable amount of time to learn theory by going through study texts or past study notes, rather than really focusing on mock attempts or conducting revision based on the same type of mocks. So that is why I'm asking you guys not to work harder than the previous attempt, because last time, if you spent a considerable amount of time on reading through theory, if you try to spend some additional time to do the same, it is not going to add any value. So you need to work smarter. And in a little while, I'm going to talk about how you should conduct your preparations in a smart manner. Because just because you spend something like 3 to 4 hours on a daily basis and dedicate it towards studies, if you are doing something which adds no value, you're wasting your time as well as your effort and money, because you'd have to retake this exam once more. So I'm going to cover all these things in today's webinar. So I want to now direct your attention towards top causes of failure. So the biggest issue out there is the fact that students are attempting just 2 or 3 mock exams, and they expect to pass this exam. So I'm not actually blaming you for this, because especially if you're coming through an exemption route such as the Master's Gateway or FLP, you only gain access to 2 mock exams. Okay, so you have access to 2 mock exams, and if you look at these 2 mock exams, they are extremely easy. But if you look at the type of questions which are thrown at you at your real exam, they are extremely hard. So the mocks which you have access to via the FLP platform is worlds apart. The quality the quality and the content of the mocks are worlds apart compared to what you'd see at your exam. So that's a major problem. And on top of that, students think that, okay, I have access to 2 mock exams. So because of that, if I, attempt these mock exams and revise based on these 2 mock exams, I'm going to easily pass. But at the exam, you will end up scoring just 50 or 60. So the biggest issue is the fact that you cannot cover the entire syllabus when you have access to just 2 or 3 mock exams. Because if you look at past exam variants or past papers, you would have seen that the examiner develops 6 different variants or 6 different papers focused on each pre-scene. Why 6 papers? With the prime intention of covering 60 subtasks in total within these 6 variants. So the entire syllabus can be divided into 60 main sections or 60 conceptual elements. So when attempting your mock exams, you have to make sure that you cover the same 60. If not, you are testing your luck at your exam. So in order to cover 60 sections, it takes 6 mock exams. There's no way out of it. So that's why the examiner is developing 6 papers or 6 different variants. So you need to replicate a similar methodology when conducting your preparations. Before walking into the exam, you have to gain a clear understanding of what these 60 areas are, and focused on these 60 areas, you have to conduct your preparations and revision. However, if you attempt just 2 or 3 mock exams, you are covering just 20 to 30 sections, which is not going to help you at your exam. Because when you're expected to be thorough with 60 sections, when you are only thorough with just 20 or 30 sections, definitely you will see a question which you have never seen in your life at your real exam. This is when you'd panic. So if you have attempted this exam previously, you know what I'm talking about. When you attempt just 2 or 3 mock exams, and when you walk into the exam, you will definitely see questions which are fresh to you, and this throws you off your time management technique. This throws you off your preparation or your answering technique as well. Because when you are exposed to a question which you are seeing for the first time, you are going to panic. Panic leads to brain freeze, and then you'd end up wasting a lot of time. So I do not want you guys to panic during the exam, because if you panic, you are not going to pass this exam. It is that tough. You need to be serious about how you conduct your preparations. And if you expect to pass this exam by attempting just 2 or 3 mock exams, well, you are gravely mistaken. Instead, you need to make up your mind to attempt 6 mock exams with the prime intention of getting conversant with how each of the 60 areas are tested at your examination. So practicing just 2 or 3 mocks is the biggest issue out there. In order to cover the entire syllabus, you have to, there's no way out of it. You have to attempt 6 mock exams this time with the intention of covering 60 subtasks in total. And also, students think that they can rely on past exam variants and easily pass this examination. Well, if this was true, everybody is going to pass this exam, because you have access to so many past exam variants. If you go to the CGMA study hub, you can gain access to the past pre-scenes as well as the various different variants which are aligned with each of these pre-scenes. So just because you read through the questions and answers which are contained within the past exam variants, you are not going to pass, given the fact that the way in which some conceptual elements can be tested are totally aligned with what appears within your pre-scene. Let me explain this point. For instance, let's assume there's a question tied to business models. Okay, this is, I'm going to direct your attention towards the second subtask of section number 1 of our first mock exam. So you are supposed to evaluate the implications of entering the packaging equipment manufacturing market on Cartn's business model. So this type of a question is intended to test your knowledge about business models, which is contained within your E2 syllabus. And on top of that, this is testing your knowledge in terms of your application skills, because you need to know the existing business model of Cartn, which appears within your pre-scene. Additionally, you have to have the capability of commenting about how the existing business model is poised to change due to us pursuing this type of a related diversification. So if you look at the internal dynamics of Cartn, which is which is into providing packaging, so solutions to customers. And when you compare that with the previous pre-scene, which was based on reset, which was totally different to what Cartn is up to, the business models are different in the first place. You can go through the previous pre-scene and see clearly that the business models are totally different when you compare the two companies. And on top of that, a related diversification pursued by a company such as Cartn has nothing to do with a related diversification pursued by a company such as Reset, which was the previous pre-scenes company. So when you refer to past exam variants, what happens is you are not in a position to clearly gain an understanding of how to deal with these type of questions. As I mentioned earlier, the business models are different as per pre-scene information, and at the same time, the type of diversification or an expansion pursued by Cartn is going to be totally different when you look at previous companies. So you are not in a position to clearly figure out how to approach these type of questions which combine both theory and application. So you will be somewhat okay with this type of a question, risk identification, because irrespective of what's highlighted within the pre-scene, you can base your arguments on what's highlighted within the scenario when it comes to dealing with a question tied to business risks, because these type of questions are application heavy ones. But if there is a question which is supposed to test both your application and theory knowledge, this is where you are going to struggle if you refer to past exam variants. So this is another major problem faced by students, because most students out there think that they can simply go through past exam variants and figure out how to develop high quality answers. You cannot do so, because at the exam you are not going to simply get just application heavy exams. You are going to get theory heavy examinations and questions, as well as you are going to get theory questions in which theory and application knowledge are tested. So that's why it is prudent for you to base your preparations on pre-scene specific mock exams. Then you need not waste a lot of time, because if you want to gain a clear understanding of the logic behind each answer concerning what is contained within a past exam variant, you need to have a sound knowledge about a previous pre-scene. So why should you waste time to really understand a previous pre-scene when you just have 5.5 or 6 weeks at your disposal to conduct prep focused on your upcoming sitting, which is happening in May 2026. So you have to avoid all these disturbances. Instead, you need to focus your attention towards conducting prep based on the current pre-scene. So when it comes to your mock attempts, as I mentioned earlier, you have to make up your mind to attempt 6 mocks to cover the entire syllabus. And also, there's absolutely no point of relying on past exam variants. Instead, you need to focus your attention towards study resources which are based on the pre-scene, and conduct your prep based on pre-scene specific study resources. And also, most students struggle at the exam because they are clueless of an answering technique. And when you are clueless of a proper answering technique, a foolproof answering technique, you are not in a position to manage your time appropriately as well. So if you want to manage your time, it's essential that you practice a proper answering technique. In order to practice a proper answering technique, first things first, you need to learn a proper answering technique. So most students out there, 99% of the students, what they do is, after reading through the scenario, they will start typing their final answer in paragraph form. But what happens is, when you are not spending some time to plan your answer, instead, when you jump the gun right after reading through the scenario, when you start typing your final answer, what happens is, halfway through the answer, you might realize that your answer is not really aligned with the requirement. And when this happens, you'd end up deleting the entire answer and you'd start from scratch. And when this happens, you will always remember the fact that you ended up wasting a lot of time. Therefore, you'd try to save some time, And when you try to do so, you are definitely going to come up with rushed answers. And as you know, rushed answers are not the best type of answers out there. So rather than rushing the process, rather than, jumping the gun and, simply trying to finalize your answer without spending some time to plan, it's essential that you stick to an appropriate answering technique. If you do so, you will plan out your answer properly. When you are planning out your answer, you are focusing on achieving utmost levels of quality, trying to figure out how to deal with theoretical concepts, how to apply these theoretical concepts, how to bring in pre-seen information. So when you consider all these things in the planning stage, you are effectively taking steps to ensure the quality of your answer. And if you come up with a high quality answer, you are going to get extremely good marks at your exam. And at the same time, if you stick to a similar answering technique, you are going to manage your time appropriately as well. Because if you run out of time, it shows to the examiner that you have not actually managed affairs properly during the exam. If so, you are you do not deserve to play the role of a finance manager, because if you look at a quoted company, a finance manager is supposed to be knowledgeable, experienced, as well as have the capability to manage time effectively. So if you run out of time during the exam, it shows that you do not deserve to be a finance manager, and at the same time it shows that um, you have not adhered to an appropriate answering technique. And when you run out of time, as I mentioned earlier, there's a tendency for students to come up with rushed answers, and these rushed answers are not the best type of answers. So that's the third issue. And the fourth issue is the fact that students do not practice mocks under simulated exam conditions. It is essential that you learn answering and time management techniques, which I'm going to highlight in a little while. Just learning these two techniques won't help. You need to implement these two techniques and practice them when attempting mock exams, because you are not in a position to implement these two techniques, answering and time management, in a practical manner, in a successful manner at your exam for the first time. So, as per our answering technique, you are supposed to spend something like 20 minutes to plan your answer. So, although I'm asking you to spend 20 minutes to plan the answer, if you try to implement it for the first time during your exam, you are going to take 40 minutes because you lack practice. So, it's essential that you practice these two techniques in order to master them before walking into the exam. So, this time, at least you have to attempt 4 mock exams under exam conditions. If you're running out of time in terms of preparations, I don't mind if you skip, about 2 mock exams when it comes to attempting them under exam conditions. At least you need to attempt 4 mock exams under exam conditions with the prime intention of practicing your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. And as you know, stress management techniques will be taught in next week's webinar. So you need to practice these 3 techniques over and over, at least across 4 mock exams, in order to ensure that you are comfortable with these 3 techniques in your real examination. So that's why it's essential that you practice mocks under simulated exam conditions. So when it comes to mock attempts, I've seen students, when they're attempting a certain mock exam, a mock exam is divided into 4 different sections. So students tend to attempt the first section today, the second section tomorrow, and the third section day after tomorrow, and likewise. But at the exam, you have to sit in one place across 3 hours and attempt the 4 sections one after the other. So when this is the case, you have to get your grips with the type of pressures you encounter at the exam. That's why it's essential that you have to dedicate 3 hours at a stretch when it comes to attempting a certain mock exam. You should not take breaks between sections, because you do not have that luxury at your real exam. So that's why it's essential that you practice under simulated exam conditions. You need to practice, therefore, at least 4 mocks under simulated exam conditions. And another problem, one of the major problems out there, is a lack of technical knowledge. I've gotten this wrong. I'm extremely sorry about it. So if you have knowledge gaps concerning your E2, F2, and P2 elements, you are never going to pass this exam, because as I mentioned in the first webinar, both your theory knowledge as well as application is tested at this exam. So if you lack any type of knowledge concerning E2, F2, and P2 syllabi, you are going to struggle at your exam. For instance, I took you through one of the questions. I said this question is tied to business models. So if you are clueless of what a business model is, as per what's highlighted within your CIMA syllabus, you are going to struggle with this type of a question. And moving on, if you look at this question, you are supposed to advise the board on the approach that should be taken to successfully negotiate the acquisition of a company. So in this question, your knowledge concerning how to conduct negotiations by sticking to a 4-step process is tested. So if you had gone through your E2 syllabus, there is a mention about the way in which we have to conduct negotiations in a foolproof manner by adhering to a 4-step approach. So if you do not know these 4 steps, you are not in a position to gain good marks for this type of a question. And similarly, this question is about consolidated financial statements. So if we acquire a certain company and consider it as a 100% subsidiary of our group, how is it going to impact our consolidated financial statements? This type of question is intended to test your F2 related knowledge. So if you do not know how to deal with this type of question, how a subsidiary is going to impact our financial statements or our consolidated financial statements, you are not going to get the marks which are dedicated for this subtask. And moving on, if you look at the third section, so evaluate the issues for Cartn in agreeing the terms of offer put forward by the shareholders of Pactech Solutions. This is an application-heavy exam. Even if you do not know theory, you can pass this type of a question. But when it comes to a question tied to WACC or the weighted average cost of capital, if you do not know what the WACC is, if you do not know how to conduct your evaluations concerning the WACC, you are going to struggle at your exam. So that's why I said that if you lack technical knowledge, you are going to struggle. So at the very beginning, I said that you need to practice 6 mocks, which contain 60 sections in total. So the prime objective is to get yourself conversant with each of the 60 syllabus areas, because rather than doing so, if you walk into the exam with knowledge gaps, you are definitely going to suffer. And also, we've encountered shortcomings in terms of application of knowledge, especially if you scored 70 or above, but still failed last time. This highlights the fact that you have application issues. So as per what's highlighted within the CIMA exam blueprint, the examiner tells us that students who score less than 70 indicates that they have not learned all their theory and there are issues with application. So if you have knowledge gaps as well as issues with application, you will end up scoring less than 70. But if you scored 70 or above but still failed, this indicates the fact that you know your theory, but you have application issues. Because as I took you through, parts of mock exam 1, you saw that some questions are intended to test your application skills, whereas some questions test a combination of theory knowledge as well as application. So in each of the questions, your application skills will definitely be tested. So if you do not know how to apply your knowledge, just because you know your theory, you are not going to pass this exam. So that is why I want you guys to conduct preparations based on mock exams, because if you go through study notes or study texts, yes, you can learn theory, but you will never figure out application. This issue is faced by most students coming through the exemption route. That's why the pass rates are below 40%. If you look at those who sit for MCS exams coming through exemption routes, why is this the case? Because these students spend a considerable amount of time to learn theory, but there aren't any resources out there within the FLP platform which is intended to teach you application. So that is where masterclasses come into play. So at TCS, we offer masterclasses focused on each of our mock exams in a little while. Whilst explaining answering and time management techniques, I said that I'm going to take you through mock exam 1. When doing so, I'm going to essentially conduct a masterclass. Then you'd realize how beneficial these masterclasses are for you, because in each masterclass, the objective is to explain the logic behind each answer and at the same time teach you the theoretical concepts covered within each of our mock exams, and also teach you application. So the easiest way to learn theory and application is to watch our master classes. So if you have knowledge gaps and if you have issues with application, you can easily figure these things out when you watch our master classes rather than trying to figure out application on your own. Because if you are clueless of application, even if you try, you are not in a position to figure it out on your own. So that's where tutor support comes in via the master classes. And a lack of evaluation could have led to a low score at your previous sitting. So most students, they take steps to attempt mocks, but they do not spend enough time to revise their knowledge. So, when I was calling most of you, yesterday and day before, I encountered this problem. Most of you have attempted, 2 or 3 mock exams, at least 2 or 3 mock exams, but you have not taken steps to conduct your revision or to fine tune or refine your answering technique, because most of you have not taken the steps to compare your answer with the suggested answers. Okay, so if you do not do it, you are not in a position to figure out whether your answers are aligned with the suggested answers or not. And some students tend to just read through the suggested answers. Yes, when you are reading through the suggested answers, something will go into your head, but all the points will not be contained within your brain. Why is this the case? Just because you read something, you are not in a position to clearly see what the exact answer points are. Okay, let me explain this point. So for instance, if you look at this suggested answers come in paragraphs. So when you go through this information, there's pages and pages of information. When you go through all this information, you are not in a position to figure out what the main points are. So that's where the answer plans will help you, because when you have the summarized versions of suggested answers at your disposal, you are in a position to clearly see what the main points are. And when you can clearly see the main points, then it impacts your understanding in an efficient manner, because you are in a position to clearly understand the logic behind each and every answer. You are in a position to clearly see how to bring in theory elements as well as how to deal with application when you have access to answer plans as opposed to just suggested answers. So if you failed previously, and if you just, after attempting each mock exam, if you just read through the answer plans and, thought that you have really understood how to tackle each conceptual element, you know that it had not worked out for you. So that's why it's essential that you, go through our answer plans to gain clarity about how to approach each conceptual element. And also, it's essential that you spend some time to revise, as I mentioned earlier. So, just reading through these answer plans won't help. You need to take steps to redevelop these answer plans on your own. So when you are redeveloping your answer plans, or when you're trying to redevelop answer plans, the objective is to figure out whether you have gained something via the master classes, whether you have gained something by reading through these answer plans, because you should be satisfied about the fact that you are capable of developing or replicating TCS's answer plans on your own. If so, you can rest assured that you have gained a good understanding of how to approach each syllabus area. So for instance, this answer plan is tied to business models. So when you read through this answer plan and when you watch the master classes, you will gain a clear understanding of how to deal with questions to do with the theoretical elements behind a question tied to business models. Then you'd also understand how to deal with application. Once you have learned these 2 elements, you have to test for yourself whether you are in a position to replicate these type of answer plans on your own. That's why you need to take steps to redevelop answer plans. It's essential to do this because most students end up, forgetting about revision. Just because you attempt mock exams, you are never going to pass this exam. Even if you have access to our 6 mock exams, if you just attempt them, you are never going to pass. Instead, you need to spend a considerable amount of time to revise your knowledge. Revision is the most crucial element, which will ensure that you are taking steps to improve your answering technique, and if you are practicing and taking steps to improve your answering technique, so would your marks. Your marks will improve significantly if you nail your answering technique. All right, so this is the three-step approach which you need to stick to with the intention of mastering each mock exam. So the first step is to practice each mock under exam conditions. The objective is not to learn something, but to practice answering, time management, and stress management techniques under real exam conditions. So when you are attempting mocks under exam conditions, you will run out of time. You will be exposed to stressful situations. You will panic. I want you to experience all these negativities when you are conducting your preparations, rather than facing these problems for the first time at your real exam. So once you have practiced these three techniques, then the second step is to learn logic, theory, and application by simply watching the master classes. So when you watch the master classes, you will understand the logic behind each answer, the theory contained within each question, as well as how to deal with application of these theoretical concepts. And your preparations should not stop there. Once you have learned theory and application, then test your knowledge by redeveloping answer plans, which is the most important point as per my understanding. So out of these three steps, the most important step is the third one, in which you are supposed to revise by redeveloping answer plans. Because when you take steps to redevelop answer plans, as I mentioned earlier, your objective should be to try and replicate TCS's answer plans on your own. When you develop an answer plan for the first time, you might miss out on certain points. Then do it once more, develop the answer plan once more, do this on a continuous basis until you are satisfied about the fact that you are in a position to cover all the points which appear within TCS's answer plans. If so, when you gain, if so, you can rest assured that you are in a position to, mention the same type of points at your real exam. So you need to stick to this three-step approach, practice each mock under exam conditions, then watch master classes to learn theory and application, and revise by redeveloping answer plans. And finally, one of the major issues which leads to a failure is the fact that students do not stick to a study plan. So I know what I'm talking about. Most of you started your preparations just 2 or 3 weeks before your exam. I'm not saying that you cannot do everything within 3 weeks. You can if you're really dedicated, but you're not into full-time studies. You have your corporate responsibilities, you have your family responsibilities. So when you are trying to get everything done within just 2 or 3 weeks, for instance, let's assume all of a sudden something comes up at office. Because of that, you cannot dedicate enough time within the last week leading up to the exam, or your kid falls sick. So why should you wait until the last moment to start prep? Why should you take a risk when you can start right now? So it's essential that you stick to a study plan and stick to a tried and tested study process. I'm going to explain all these things in a little while when I'm going to take you through the study plan, which is available via our website itself. So it's essential that you stick to a study plan, because most students out there, they wait until the last 2 weeks to start preparations. Yes, you can attempt 6 mocks within 2 weeks, but you are not in a position to watch all master classes. You will not have enough time to redevelop answer plans. I mentioned that redeveloping answer plans is the most crucial element. So if you do not have time to revise, then you won't get good marks at your exam, because the objective is to improve your technique. Because your objective of attempting MCS should not be to get this paper qualification. Instead, to improve your thinking capabilities, improve your evaluation capabilities, and improve the quality of your recommendations. If you do so, if you take steps to improve your skill set, you are in a position to climb the corporate ladder. And at the same time, one fine day, if you start your own business, you are in a position to run it without any hiccups. So since the objective should be to improve your skill set, it's essential that you avoid all these pitfalls when conducting preparations focused on the next exam sitting, because this is not an easy paper. If you are a repeater, you know what I'm talking about. So it's essential that you stick to an appropriate study plan and stick to the 3-step approach when it comes to mastering each mock exam. If you adhere to this methodology, you can easily score more than 100 marks at your exam. So these are the issues which leads to a failure. So having said that, now I'm going to explain the answering technique. So you need to adhere to these 5 different steps when it comes to approaching each question at your real exam. So first things first, as you know, the time allocation for each section is 45 minutes. So let's try to understand how we should deal with, so how you should utilize rather these 45 minutes. So the first 5 to 7 minutes of each section should be dedicated towards reading the scenario, because the scenario gives you an indication of what the company is facing at the moment. So as I mentioned in last week's webinar, when I was conducting the pre-scene analysis, I said that the pre-scene gives you an indication of the past of your organization or the history of your organization, but the unseen or the scenarios which are thrown at you at your real exam gives you an indication of the current situation of the company. So it could be tied to each scenario will highlight some type of an opportunity the company tries to exploit at the moment, or some type of an issue the company is faced with at the moment. So, that's why you need to read through each scenario and gain a clear understanding of what is contained within each scenario, because when developing your answers, you need to ensure that your answers are totally aligned with the scenarios or the unseen info. So in order to read through the entire scenario, you are supposed to dedicate 5 to 7 minutes of your time. So if you exceed this time limit, you are definitely going to run out of time. So if you're struggling to read through the entire scenario within 7 minutes, then you need to practice your reading skills. And the only way to improve your reading speed is to read something on a daily basis. So dedicate 30 to 60 minutes of your time on a daily basis and read a book or a newspaper, because if you do not practice reading, you are not in a position to improve your reading speed. And if you are not in a position to improve your reading speed, you are definitely going to run out of time at your exam. So however much knowledge you have, how many, although you have attempted 6 mock exams, although you have taken to refine your answering technique, if your reading speed is not up to par, you are definitely going to run out of time. That's why it's essential that you practice your reading speed or reading capabilities. So dedicate 30 to 60 minutes on a daily basis and read something continuously until the day of your exam. So you have to read the scenario within 5 to 7 minutes. And once you have done so, before you develop the answer plan or before you plan out the answer, you need to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. What am I talking about? So if you look at this requirement, you are supposed to firstly identify and evaluate the main business risks that can arise from entering this new line of business for Cartn Group. So this requirement is quite long. So in order to gain a clearer understanding, you are supposed to simplify this requirement in your own words. So I've simplified this requirement as, if you look at the answer plan, you can see it. Evaluation of business risks arising from the new line of business. So this requirement is quite long. I've simplified it in my own words with the prime intention of gaining a clear understanding of what the requirement is. Because most students, when they are developing their answers, they end up developing an answer which is not actually aligned with the requirement. This happens due to the fact that students misunderstand requirements, because when you are reading this sentence leisurely, you can clearly see what the requirement is. But when you are operating under exam stress in a time pressured environment, you are not in a position to gain a clear understanding of what these requirements are. So that's why you have to simplify the process by simplifying the requirement or summarizing the requirement in your own words, so that you are in a position to gain clarity about what you're supposed to achieve at your exam. And at the same time, the secondary objective of simplifying each requirement is to assist with your when you are developing your answer plan. Because whilst, let's assume you are halfway through the answer plan, you want to check whether you are headed in the correct direction. You want to check whether your answer plan is 100% aligned with the requirement. So when you have access to a simplified requirement, you can, in a jiffy, see whether your answer is appropriate or not, whether your answer is aligned with the requirement or not. So simplify the requirement with two objectives in mind. First things first, you need to gain clarity. And secondly, you need to, whilst developing the answer plan, whenever you want to check whether your answer is aligned with the requirement or not, it makes your life easy when you have access to a simplified requirement. So that's the second step. You are supposed to simplify each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. And once you are done with it, then you are supposed to develop headings and subheadings. So the number of headings should be aligned with the number of requirements or number of subtasks which appear within each section. So if you look at this section, there are two subtasks, subtask A and B. Therefore, in your final answer, there should be two main headings, and each main heading should be in bold and underlined format. So if you look at the suggested answer, that's exactly what you'd see. Business risks, which is in bold and underlined format. So you are not supposed to name or number the section or the requirement. Instead, simply develop a main heading which denotes that this is the answer which you have developed for the first subtask. So come up with a main heading which is in bold and underlined format. So this is the answer for the first requirement. And looking at the second requirement, you can see another main heading which is again in bold and underlined format, which indicates the fact that this is the answer concerning the second subtask or subtask B. So if there are two subtasks within a section, you need to come up with two main headings, and in certain sections you will see three subtasks. If so, you need to come up with three main headings, and each main heading should be in bold and underlined format. And if you want, you can utilize subheadings as well, because if you feel that you need to further fraction out your answer, you can utilize subheadings, and these subheadings should be in bold format. So these are the things which the examiner expects you to achieve when it comes to structuring your answer. It's essential that you adhere to these techniques. If not, the marker will struggle to figure out, what your answers are, and how your answers are aligned with each requirement. So you have to develop headings and subheadings. Once you have developed these things, then you should focus your attention towards developing the answer plan. And when developing the answer plan, you are supposed to develop the answer plan focused on all subtasks which are contained within a section within just 20 minutes. I don't mind even if you take 25 minutes, but you should not go beyond this, because if you take more than 25 minutes to develop the answer plans or to plan out your answer, you are definitely going to struggle to maintain or to manage your time. So I'm not asking you to develop the answer plan of one single subtask within 20 minutes. Instead, I'm saying that within a section, if there are two subtasks, you should develop the answer plans focused on both subtasks within 20 to 25 minutes. And in certain sections, you will see three subtasks, and you should have the capability of developing answer plans focusing on all three subtasks within just 20 to 25 minutes. Although I'm saying this, when you try to implement this for the first time, you are definitely going to run out of time. You will take 35 to 40 minutes to develop answer plans concerning all subtasks. That's quite all right, because you are still preparing for this exam. So it's best that you understand the fact that although I'm asking you to develop answer plans within 20 minutes, when you try it for the first time, you will take 40 minutes. I want you to experience this so that you will, think seriously about this exam and take steps to practice your answering techniques with the intention of managing your time appropriately whenever you are attempting a mock exam. So you are supposed to develop the answer plan within 20 minutes. And before you come up with the answer points, you need to understand how many points you should include under each subtask. So how are you supposed to determine this? You can see some weightages in each subtask. So if you look at these two subtasks, the weightages are 50% each. So this gives us an indication of how many marks are dedicated for each subtask. So as you know, for each section, in total, 37.5 marks are dedicated. So 50% of 37.5 marks come up to, I've mentioned it in here, 18.75 marks, or you can round it up to 19 marks. Okay, so now you know how many marks are dedicated for each subtask. And when you know the mark allocations, then you can determine how many points you need to include under each subtask. Because as per the CIMA examiner, if you are to score good marks, each valid point will carry 2 or 3 marks. So your objective should not be to get 0 marks or just 1 mark. Your objective should be to score at least 2 marks, or if you look at the best case scenario, 3 marks per answer point. So if 18.75 marks or 19 marks are dedicated for the first subtask, based on the mark allocations, you can determine how many points you should include within each subtask. So how are you supposed to achieve this? Divide 19 by 2, assuming the fact that each valid point is going to carry 2 marks. You will get an answer which is 9.5, or if you round it up, it will be 10 points. So assuming that you include, you score 2 marks per point, you need to include at least 10 points. Or assuming that you are going to score 3 marks per point, then you need to include something like 7 points. So if you include 7 to 10 valid points under this the first subtask, you are going to get full marks. Okay, so let me reiterate this once more. Based on the weightages, you are supposed to indicate the mark allocations. Then when you know the mark allocations, divide it by 3, and then again divide the mark allocations by 2. Then you will understand how many points you should include to gain full marks for each and every subtask. So if you have to score 18.75 marks, divide 18.75 by 3, you get an answer which is 6.3, or you can round it up to 7. And if you divide 18.75 by 2, you get an answer which is 9. So if you come up with 7 to 9 valid points, you will get full marks. So when you adhere to this methodology, you will know exactly how many points you should include under each subtask. Therefore, you are effectively taking steps to ensure that your answer is not too short or too long. Because most students tend to spend a considerable amount of time on the first subtask, and they end up running out of time concerning subtask B, or if there are 3 subtasks, definitely you will not have time to attempt subtask C. So this is a major mistake committed by students who end up failing. So it's that's why it's essential that you get your grips with this answering technique. And when developing your answer plans, rather than blindly coming up with answers, you need to identify how many points you need to include in each of your subtasks. If you adhere to this methodology, you are ensuring that your answers are not too long or too short. And when developing the answer plan, develop it on the answer screen itself. Do not use the scratch pad. In a little while, I'm going to take you through the exam platform. Then you will realize the logic behind this, because I do not want you to utilize the scratch pad when it comes to planning the answer. I want you to develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself. So once you're done with the answer plan, then your final step is to expand the answer plan in paragraph form. Because if you provide answers in bullet points or in single line sentences, you are not going to get any marks. The examiner is extremely clear about this. So if your answer is in bullet points, or if the answer plan appears within your answer, you are not going to get any marks. Instead, your final answer should be in paragraph form. So this type of a methodology is utilized to plan your answer, in which you are supposed to keep things short, because when you're planning something, you need not really elaborate each and every point in paragraph form or in long sentences. Keep it short so that you can easily figure out what the points you intend to include in your answer. That happens at planning, but when it comes to expanding or finalizing your answer plan, you have to expand each of these answer points in paragraph form, and this is how your final answer should look like. So that should be done within the final 15 to 20 minutes of each section, in which you are supposed to simply connect all these answer points, thereby forming paragraphs. So in a nutshell, If you stick to this answering technique and if you practice this answering technique, you are not only focusing your attention towards developing high quality answers, you are also focusing your attention towards managing your time appropriately as well. If you achieve quality and if you manage your time, definitely you are poised to score extremely good marks at your upcoming sitting. Okay, so if you look at the answering technique, the headings should be in bold and underlined format. And if you want to fraction out your answer, you are invited to utilize subheadings, and these subheadings should be in bold format. And the expected typing speed at this exam is 20 words per minute. Again, just like reading, if you are falling behind in terms of your typing speed, the only way to improve your typing speed is to practice typing. So on a daily basis, dedicate 30 to 60 minutes of your time, purchase a newspaper or a book and type what appears within the newspaper or the book on your computer or your laptop. Because if you do not take steps to improve your typing speed, you are not going to be in a position to manage your time appropriately. And when it comes to paragraphs, each paragraph should ideally consist of 2 to 4 sentences. And these paragraphs should be aligned with the number of main points which you included within your answer plan. So let's assume that within a certain answer plan, when developing a certain answer plan, you included 7 valid points. If so, in your final answer, there should be 7 different paragraphs. And alternatively, in another subtask, you intended to include 9 valid points in your answer plan. And then in your final paragraph, there should be 9 different paragraphs. Do not write the entire answer in one single paragraph, because if you do so, you are not actually helping the marker. Although you are supposed to take 3 hours to attempt the entire exam, a marker is going to just take 10 to 13 minutes to mark your paper. And the marker is not just marking your paper. He or she will have to deal with hordes of answer scripts in a single day. So he or she is under fatigue and stress when marking your papers. So it's better to assist your marker rather than being in the bad books of the marker. So it's better to listen to what the examiner expects from you. Do not write the entire answer in one single paragraph, because if you do so, the marker is not in a position to figure out how many points or clearly see how many points you have included. Then you are not in the good books, instead you are in the bad books. And this would lead to a situation where you will end up losing 1 or 2 marks. So rather than being in the bad books, it's good to be in the good books of the marker by listening to what the CIMA examiner has to say. Because if you divide the paragraphs as per the guidance I provided, if you look at this answer, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 paragraphs. So the marker can clearly see how many points you have highlighted within your answer. And when it comes to marking, the marker can easily figure out, so out of these points, which are accurate, which are inaccurate, and based on it, easily give you marks. So it's good to be in the good books of the marker. That's why you need to divide the paragraphs aligned with the number of points which you intended to include in each answer plan. And do not spend time on formatting such as paragraph alignment. The only type of formatting you have to be conversant with is in terms of having headings which are in bold and underlined format and subheadings in bold format, and developing a paragraph per answer point. And always remember, you are getting marks for quality, not quantity. I've seen tutors out there saying that you need to type an X amount of words to achieve an X amount of marks, which is never going to be the case, given the fact that the examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment. So in a real life corporate environment, think in a practical manner. In a real life corporate environment, when you receive an email and when you respond to this email, is your superior going to count the number of words, or is your superior going to look at the content and see whether you have addressed the requirement or not, or whether you have conducted a successful evaluation, or whether you have come up with appropriate recommendations? Your superior is never going to count the number of words in your email. So similarly, your marker is never going to count the number of words, because that makes absolutely no sense. This exam is intended to test your thinking capabilities and your answering technique. So when this is the case, you should not think about typing an X amount of words to achieve an X amount of marks. Instead, you need to focus on the answer points. So that's why it's essential that you gain a clear understanding of this answering technique and practice this answering technique whenever you are attempting a mock exam, because when you are doing so, you are primarily focusing your attention towards achieving quality. Because if you achieve quality, you will end up generating a good answer, and if so, you'd end up getting good marks at your examination. And when I was talking about how you should master each mock exam, I said that the third step is the most important one, in which you are supposed to revise. When you are revising, you are trying to nail quality, you are trying to nail your answering technique. So that's why I said that the third step is the most important one, because you are getting marks based on quality, not based on quantity. So that's your answering technique. And before I explain how to implement these techniques in a practical manner when taking you through mock exam 1, let me quickly tell you what we offer at TCS. So I'm on the MCS page. If you are yet to create a free user account, click on this button, start free trial button, and create a free user account. Once you have created one, you will gain access to our student dashboard. And once you are in the student dashboard, click on my courses, and in front of MCS free, you would see an access content button. Click on it. And when you have clicked on it, you'd gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops. You also have access to one single masterclass concerning mock exam 2 task 1, which can be accessed via this same tab, the videos tab. And under the study materials tab, you'd gain access to the pre-seen mind map and the answer plan of mock exam 1 free of charge. And under the mocks tab, you'd gain access to the questions and suggested answers of mock exam 1. And via the exams tab, you have the opportunity of attempting mock number 1 in its entirety under exam conditions via TCS's exam platform. And we have taken steps to replicate the Pearson VUE system on which you'd attempt your real exam. So you have the opportunity of attempting mock exam 1 under real exam conditions, which is the best way to test whether you are in a position to adhere to the answering and time management techniques which I taught you a while back. So all these resources are included under the free course. So you can start your free trial by clicking on this button. And if you are yet to join our WhatsApp discussion forum, click on this button and join it, because via this group, you can raise any questions as and when necessary. Myself and Jared are always there to help you guys out. And also, we will be sharing free resources via this WhatsApp group, and we will keep you guys informed of the weekly webinar and workshop commencement dates and times as well. And talking about what we offer 2 packages, the essential course and the premium course. The essential course is intended for those who are coming through the traditional route, or those who have completed their E2, F2, and P2 OTQs. So since you have already completed your OTQs, you have championed theory, you have an in-depth understanding of each of the 60 conceptual areas. So when it comes to conducting preparations, your job is to simply refine your application skills. So under the essential course, you'd gain access to the recordings of all webinars and workshops, 6 mock exams with suggested answers. This is a blunder. This should be 60 questions. So we have made sure to include 60 questions in total, aligning with the standards expected at the exam, thereby covering the entire syllabus across these 6 mock exams. You will also gain access to pre-seen analysis videos. Simply watch these videos to gain an in-depth understanding of what is contained within your pre-seen, rather than you trying to figure out the pre-seen document on your own. Then you'd also gain access to the annotated pre-seen industry and financial analysis slides. Let me quickly show you what these resources look like. So as you can see, we have come up with annotations with the prime intention of summarizing the entire pre-seen. And also, as part of these annotations, we have also indicated examinable syllabus areas, or the type of scenarios which can be tested at your examination. So this is the best resource to gain a clear understanding of the pre-seen, and to gain an understanding of the possible scenarios which will be thrown at you at your real exam. And similarly, we have analyzed the industry. So you need not waste time to gain an understanding of industry dynamics. We have already done it for you. So in the first part of this set of slides, we have defined the industry. In the second part, we have highlighted about industry trends. In the third part, we have highlighted about the opportunities and threats concerning this industry. And finally, we have considered a real life company, which is a giant within your chosen industry, so that you'd gain a clear understanding of how a company which is typical to Cartn's internal dynamics actually operate in a real life setting. And also we have evaluated the financial statements. So we have evaluated the SOPL, SOFP, as well as we have conducted ratio analysis comparing your company's performance against its closest competitor, so that you are in a position to gain a clear understanding of the financial standing of your chosen company. So all these resources are included under the essential course, and also this comes with the top 10 likely issue slides, which indicate the most probable scenarios which can be thrown at you at your exam. Comes with a case study familiarization kit. Once you have read through this kit, within 10 to 15 minutes, you are in a position to gain a clear understanding about the technicalities behind this exam. You will also gain access to a tutor, managed live chat, and OTQ revision cards. So after attempting each mock exam, if you feel that you were struggling with a certain conceptual element, or you had forgotten a certain conceptual element, you need not waste time to refer to your past notes or your study texts. Instead, simply read through these summarized OTQ revision cards in a jiffy. You are in a position to brush up your knowledge. So the essential course is priced at £249. And talking about the premium course is intended for those who are coming through the exemption routes and those who had failed this exam previously. So both these sets of students have the same problem. There are gaps in theory knowledge and issues with application. So with the intention of teaching you the entire syllabus and at the same time teaching you application, how to apply each of these conceptual elements, we have included some additional resources under the premium course on top of what appears via the essential course. So you would gain access to the online mock exam platform on which you can attempt all 6 mocks under exam conditions, which is the best way to master your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. You will also gain access to answer plans of all 6 mock exams. In a little while, you are going to understand how beneficial these answer plans are when it comes to conducting your preparation. And you would also gain access to 20 plus masterclasses. As I mentioned earlier, in each masterclass, we are teaching you the logic behind each answer, the theoretical concept covered, as well as how to deal with application of these theories. So if you have knowledge gaps as well as application issues, this is the best resource out there, so that in an extremely short period of time, you are in a position to learn theory and application together by simply watching these 20 plus masterclasses. You will also gain access to in-depth tutor feedback on mocks 4 and 6. So this type of feedback on offer at TCS. As you can see, we have evaluated each and every point, each and every paragraph, highlighting your shortcomings, because the objective of opting for tutor feedback should be to understand your shortcomings. Because when you understand your shortcomings, you can fix these problems when you are conducting revision or when you are redeveloping answer plans. So you can see the type of feedback on offer at TCS. And at the very end, we have also indicated the mark allocations on a subtask by subtask basis. And we have also indicated the success rate. By looking at the success rate, you can easily see the subtasks in which your performance was substandard. And then when you are conducting revision, you are supposed to redevelop answer plans focused on the subtasks which are highlighted in yellow, with the intention of avoiding your mistakes and improving your knowledge as well as the quality of your answers. So this is the type of feedback on offer at TCS. And once you have access to all these types of resources, you will pass for sure. Hence, we are offering a pass guarantee on the premium course. So if you score between 70 to 79 marks and fail the exam, this shows that you have put in some effort, because just because you purchase the premium course, you are not going to pass. You need to take steps to stick to our study plan and utilize our material effectively. So if you utilize our material effectively, you will score 70 or above marks at your exam. So if you score 70 to 79 and end up failing, you will get access to the premium content in your subsequent sitting free of charge under our pass guarantee. So the premium course is priced at £749, which can be paid in 2 installments of £374 each. Or if you want to pay in full, you can save £100. If so, the price is just £649. So you can click on either of these buttons to invest on your preferred course, and you might not be planning to sit for the exams happening in May. Instead, you might be planning to sit in August. Still, you can purchase right now so that you have some additional time at your disposal to really spend a lot of time on revision, to watch all the master classes so that you are in a position to easily pass the MCS exam in August. And let me quickly take you to the study plan, to highlight what you are supposed to achieve within this week. So I hope you guys took steps to understand what appears within the pre-scene, because that's what you were supposed to do in the previous week. If you are yet to start your preparations, and if you are planning to start within this week, watch the pre-scene analysis videos, which is going to take just 4 to 6 hours of your study time. So simply watch these videos. Once you have watched these videos, you would gain a clear understanding of the pre-scene. And after understanding the pre-scene, then you should direct your attention towards attempting your mock exams and mastering them. So from week 4 onwards, your burden is extremely less. You are simply supposed to master a mock exam per week. But within this week, we are in week number 3. Within this week, you are supposed to master 2 mock exams. And with the intention of mastering each of these mock exams, you need to stick to the 3-step approach focused on each mock. So attempt mock number 1 via the exam platform. As I mentioned earlier, the objective is to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. The objective is not to nail your answers. The objective is not to learn something or improve your knowledge levels. The only objective is to practice your technicalities concerning answering, time management, and stress management. And then read through the answer plans concerning mock exam 1, because you do not have access to master classes concerning mock exam 1, because the first mock's answer plans are covered within this webinar, as well as the upcoming workshops. So that is why you do not have access a specific set of videos concerning mock exam 1. So simply read through the answer plans of mock exam 1, gaining an understanding of the logic behind each answer, the theory covered, as well as how to deal with application. Once you have learned these things, then the third step is to revise by redeveloping answer plans with the intention of solidifying your understanding of how to deal with the questions which are contained within mock exam 1. Similarly, you are supposed to master the second mock exam by sticking to the 3-step approach. Attempt under exam conditions, watch master classes to learn theory and application, and redevelop answer plans to solidify your knowledge. So that's what you're supposed to achieve within this week. I hope you will start your preparations right now, because if you wait until the last moment, you will not have time to watch all the master classes and take steps to redevelop answer plans. All right. So having said that, let me explain the technicalities behind the exam platform. So when you start your real exam, you will see a screen such as this. And once you click on begin, you will be directed to the first section of your paper. So I said that we have replicated, or we have developed the exact replica of the Pearson VUE system. So those of you who have already done the exam would have seen this type of an exam platform. So we have created the exact replica at TCS with the intention of ensuring that you have the opportunity of attempting each mock under real exam conditions. So you will see on the top right, on the top left corner rather, you will see the section number, as well as you'd see a timer which starts from 45 minutes and keeps running down to 0. And you will also see the section number in here. Out of 4 sections, we are in section number 1. And you will see 4 different buttons as well. The calculator button, because you are not supposed to carry a calculator with you, irrespective of whether you are attempting the exam at home or an examination center. So you have access to a calculator within the exam platform itself. And you'd also gain access to a scratch pad. So whilst reading through the scenario, if you want to jot some important information down, then you do it on the scratch pad. And then you have access to the reference material, because in each section you will have access to some additional information. As reference material, you will see just one reference material, or you will see multiple reference material within a section. So you can access them by clicking on this button. A pop-up will appear to the right of your screen. And similarly, you have access to the pre-scene document as well. within this exam platform itself. So this is what I was talking about. So once you click on the reference material, a pop-up will appear to the right of your screen. So within a single screen, you can gain an understanding of the additional resources. And similarly, you'd gain access to the pre-seen document within the same screen itself as a pop-up to the right of your screen. And also, once you click on next, you will be directed to the answer screen. And you can see the same 4 buttons in here: the calculator, scratchpad, reference material, and the pre-seen. And you'd see the timer as well as the section number. And you'd see a previous button and a submit answer button. So if you click on previous, it will direct you to the section which depicts the question or the scenario. So although there is a previous button, you need not actually go back to gain access to the requirement, because within this answer screen itself, you have access to the reference material, the pre-seen, as well as the unseen or the scenarios information. So that's exactly what you can see via these screenshots which I've taken. So whilst you are on the answer screen, you have access to the reference material. Whilst you are on the answer screen, you have access to the section or the task or the unseen information. Similarly, within the answer screen itself, you have access to the pre-seen document. So this ensures that you can develop the answer plan on the answer screen without any hiccups, without having to shift between screens or shift between pages. Why am I saying this? Because when you're developing the answer plan, you are supposed to come up with a short answer in bullet points and in single sentences. So you can easily develop the answer plan onto the left of your screen whilst having access to all the necessary information. It could be the reference material, it could be pre-seen info, it could be unseen info. All types of information can be accessed to the right of your screen. This will assist you, or this will help you when it comes to developing the answer plan, because you can develop the answer plan to the left of your screen whilst having access to all the resources to the right of your screen. So you need not shift between screens within the same screen. You can easily develop your answer plan. And once you click on, let's assume you have done with the entire answer. Once you click on the submit answer button, you'd see a pop-up which asks you to confirm your action. And if you click on no, you will remain within the same section. But if you click on yes, you will be directed to the subsequent section of your paper. And as you can see, the technicalities are quite the same. The timer is running down from 45 minutes. You are in section number 2 out of 4 sections. You have access to the calculator, the scratchpad, reference material, and the pre-seen, but you cannot see a previous button in here. This indicates the fact that you cannot, once you're done with section number 1, you cannot, or when you are in section number 2, for instance, you cannot go back to a previous section, or you cannot go back to section number 1. So that is why, in terms of managing your time, there's absolutely no point of coming up with a plan to manage 3 hours in its entirety. Instead, you need to manage your time considering 4 different slots of 45 minutes each. So if you look at our answering technique, that's exactly why I said that you need to spend 5 minutes to read through the answer, 20 minutes to develop the answer plan, and the remaining 20 minutes should be dedicated towards expanding the answer plan in paragraph form. So you should come up with a plan concerning 45 minutes, because once you're done with a certain section, you cannot go back to a previous section. So that's how your exam platform works. It's essential that you gain an understanding about these technicalities. If not, you are going to struggle at your real exam, because when you're exposed to a new system for the first time, definitely it will take some time for you to get your bearings with a new system. So that's why you have the opportunity of attempting mock number 1, even under free resources at TCS, via an exam platform which replicates the Pearson system. And if you go for premium, you have the opportunity of attempting all 6 mocks under exam conditions within this same exam platform. All right, so having said that, let me start the discussion, or the masterclass, which is focused on mock exam 1, section 1, subtask A. So let's look at how we should implement each of these 5 steps, which I explained in depth previously. So first things first, you are supposed to read through the scenario, which is going to take 5 minutes of your time. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not going to read through the entire question because I'm simply going to direct your attention towards the first subtask. So let me read the scenario. You receive an email from Elizabeth Mayanda, the senior finance manager. So you are reporting to the SFM of your company because your role is that of a finance manager. And the subject goes as diversification. I have a major update. Over the past few months, the board has been evaluating various strategic options for Cartn with the objective of strengthening the company's long-term competitiveness in the increasingly innovation-driven packaging industry. So we are trying to strengthen our long-term competitiveness within this industry. And therefore, our board has been evaluating various different strategic options at our disposal. The board firmly believes that expansion is essential and is currently exploring the possibility of diversifying into packaging equipment manufacturing. So this gives us an indication of what we are trying to achieve in the future, because as per your pre-scene document, we are not involved with manufacturing packaging equipment. So let me quickly take you to the pre-scene to explain this point. So if you look at the pre-scene, we are offering consultancy services. I highlighted these points in the last week's pre-scene analysis as well. If you missed it, please go watch the recorded version via YouTube, or which can be accessed via our student dashboard. So as per the consultancy services we offer consultancy services to our customers to design and install packaging equipment. So we offer packaging solutions, and in order to utilize our packaging solutions, customers need to rely on packaging equipment. So they need some guidance in terms of what type of equipment they should install and how to install these equipment. So that's the exact type of consultancy services we are offering to our customers. However, as I mentioned earlier, we are not in a position to, we are actually currently, as per pre-scene information, we are not manufacturing or selling any of these equipment. And we are not also involved with installing these equipment. So you have to be clear about this point. We are only providing consultancy services, thereby directing our customers towards equipment manufacturers. Because as I mentioned earlier, in order to utilize our packaging solutions, you need to rely on equipment. So we do not manufacture this equipment. Instead, what we do is we suggest the necessary equipment and say, okay, look here, if you want to install these equipment, these are the vendors you have to reach out to. And these vendors will end up installing the equipment within customers' factories or customer premises. Okay, so we are only providing consultancy services, thereby linking up customers with vendors who end up setting up the equipment. We are not in the business of manufacturing or selling this equipment, as well as we are not in the business of installing this equipment as per the pre-scene. But as I mentioned earlier, each unseen or each scenario will present some type of a new opportunity the company is trying to exploit, or some type of an issue the company faces at the moment, which did not appear within the pre-scene. That's exactly what you can see here. As per the pre-scene, we had nothing to do with equipment manufacturing, but now, as per this unseen, we are contemplating about diversifying into this sector as well. The demand for integrated packaging solutions has been steadily rising across the industry. More clients are seeking end-to-end solutions, combining consultancy and production capabilities, creating a promising opportunity for Cartn to expand into this segment. For more details, please refer to the board meeting minutes I have attached. So let's look at board minutes. The board considered Cartn's long-term strategic direction in response to increasing competition and the growing demand for integrated packaging solutions. As part of these future growth plans, the board discussed a proposal to diversify into packaging equipment manufacturing. The board noted that at present, clients often face challenges in sourcing packaging equipment that aligns with Cartn's recommended specifications. So since customers are struggling, why not address these needs and provide an end-to-end solution to our customers? This has resulted in a mismatch between consultancy recommendations and the capabilities of third-party manufacturers, thereby limiting the effectiveness of Cartn's solutions. So we are doing our job properly, but if the vendors are not in a position to fulfill the equipment needs of our customers, then the customers are not going to actually benefit from the solutions which we are offering them. Because when we are doing our job properly, if the equipment manufacturers lack the capability to set up the necessary equipment, or if they are not manufacturing the equipment to the required level of quality, then the customers are going to be disappointed, because the customers might think that, okay, these guys recommended something to us without knowing whether the vendors have the capability to set up this equipment as per the requirements or the specifications set out by Cartn. So in order to avoid all these types of problems, in order to provide a fully fledged service from top to bottom, we are planning to diversify into the market of manufacturing, packaging, material, equipment. It was proposed that entering the equipment manufacturing segment would enable Cartn to complement its existing consultancy services definitely with in-house production capabilities. Cartn will integrate this new capability into its existing business model, enabling it to provide both consultancy services and equipment manufacturing solutions to clients. So this sentence indicates the fact that your knowledge concerning business models will definitely be tested within this requirement itself. Given the fact that as per the existing business model, we are only providing consultancy services, we are not into manufacturing this equipment. But when we go for this diversification, our existing business model should change. So that's why I said that it's essential that you practice or gain an understanding of how each conceptual element can be tested by relying on mock exams. And each of these mock exams should be totally focused on the current pre-scene, because this type of a diversification can be predicted based on what appears within the newspaper articles of your pre-scene. So within the news articles, the examiner hints that we can move into this sector, and this hint should be considered when developing mock exams, because if you consider some other scenario, some other type of a diversification which was not mentioned in the pre-scene, it is not going to be tested at your exam. So via the news articles, we are in a position to figure out what type of scenarios can be thrown at your exam, and based on them, we as tutors are supposed to develop mock exams, because when dealing with a question to do with something like business models, if you look at some type of related diversification, but if this related diversification is not mentioned within your pre-scene, if a hint about it is not mentioned within your pre-scene, yes, you will gain an understanding of how to deal with a totally different type of diversification, but the way in which a different diversification impacts your business model will be quite different to that of how the business model will be impacted if we pursue this diversification into equipment manufacturing. However, board members expressed the need for detailed evaluation of all aspects of this new business proposal before making a final decision. Okay, so let's look at what your requirement is. So in view of the above, I need you to draft a report to the board covering, firstly, identify and evaluate the main business risks that can arise from entering this new line of business for Cartn Group. So I've read through the scenario. I took a bit of time because I explained each of the points which were highlighted within the board meeting minutes, but you should have the capability of reading through the entire scenario within just 5 to 7 minutes. And the next step is to, before you plan out your answer, the next step is to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So that's exactly what you can see here within our answer plan. I've simplified this requirement as evaluation of business risks arising from the new line of business. And as I mentioned earlier, the objective of simplifying the requirement is to gain a clear understanding of what you expected to achieve. And secondly, when you are developing the answer plan, if you want to check whether you are developing an answer which is aligned with the requirement, it makes your life easy when you have access to a simplified requirement. Okay, so that's the second step. We have done it. And then we are supposed to develop the headings and subheadings. I'm simply going to direct your attention towards the first requirement. So I'm only going to talk about the first main heading. So as you can see, I've come up with a main heading which is in bold and underlined format. And I've also thought of factioning out this answer and focused on each element. I've come up with a subheading, which is in bold format. Okay, so I've determined the headings and subheadings, and then I'm going to direct my attention towards developing the answer plan. And before I come up with the answer plan, I need to understand how many points I need to include within my answer in order to score good marks. So you are supposed to determine mark allocations based on the weightages provided. So the weightage provided is 50%. Based on that, 18.75 marks are dedicated for the subtask. So as I mentioned earlier, in order to determine how many points you need to include within this answer, you are supposed to divide the mark allocations by 3 and again divide the mark allocation by 2. So when you divide 18.75 by 3, you get an answer which is 6. And when you divide 18.75 by 2, you get an answer which is 9. So if you include 6 to 9 valid points within this answer, you are going to get full marks. So I know exactly how many points I should include within my answer. Then you are supposed to dedicate your attention or direct rather your attention towards developing the answer plan. And when doing so, do it on the answer screen itself, because as I mentioned earlier, when you're developing the answer plan on the answer screen itself, you have access to all the resources or the pre-seen document, the unseen information, as well as reference material to the right of your screen. So when you have access to all these resources to the right of your screen, you can easily develop the answer plan without hiccups, because some students utilize the scratchpad to develop the answer plan. When you do so, you'd have to shift between the scratchpad, which is again a pop-up. So you are supposed to switch between various different pop-ups, which is going to complicate your affairs, especially given the fact that you are operating under a time pressured environment. So you have to get rid of all types of undue complexities as much as possible. So that's why it's essential that you stick to this best practice. Forget about the scratchpad. Instead, develop the answer plan on the answer screen so that you can easily gain access to all the necessary information via the pop-ups which appear to the right of your screen. So you are supposed to develop the answer plan within the answer screen itself. So let me explain how we should develop an answer plan focused on the first subtask. So as I mentioned earlier, looking at the simplified requirement, you are simply supposed to talk about the business risks tied to us pursuing this related diversification. What type of a diversification are we contemplating about? Diversifying into manufacturing, packaging, equipment. So what type of business risks are we supposed to deal with? So whenever your knowledge concerning business risks are tested, you need to think about 3 main risks. You need to include these 3 main risks in any given question tied to risk identification. So what are these 3 risks which you need to consider? You need to consider about the strategic risk exposure as per what's highlighted within your P2 syllabus. Whenever we are trying to do something new, it will impact our internal dynamics in an adverse manner or in a positive manner. So you need to have an understanding of how this new initiative, how this diversification is going to impact our internal business dynamics or the way in which we conduct business at the moment, how it is going to impact our current business model. So that's these type of points should be considered under strategic risks. And then you need to see how our operations are going to change due to this diversification and how these changes therefore are going to expose us to various different operational risks. Okay, so firstly, I said that you need to consider strategic risks, then you should consider operational risks, then you have to think about how this initiative is going to impact financially, therefore considering financial risk exposure. So these are the 3 main risks which you need to consider when dealing with any question tied to risk identification. So what are these 3 risks? Strategic risks, operational risks, and financial risks. And on top of that, as and when necessary, you can also think about reputational risk exposure as well, because as a quoted company, it's essential that we manage our reputation. If not, it will dissatisfy our stakeholders, mainly our main stakeholder group, which are our shareholders. And if our shareholders are dissatisfied, they will end up selling our stock. And when our share price dips, it will impact our business in an adverse manner, because we have to take steps to always build investor confidence. If not, we are going to face problems in the future. So that's why it's best practice to consider reputational risk exposure as well. So these are the logical elements, the theoretical elements tied to a question which is aligned with risk identification. And these are the four same risks which I've considered when developing the answer. So I've considered our strategic risk exposure, operational or technical risk exposure, reputational risk exposure, as well as financial risk exposure. Okay, then, so that's the theoretical element. Then let's try to figure out how to deal with application. So looking at strategic risks, so this diversification is not an unrelated diversification. Instead, this is a related diversification. However, this is a distinct line of business. Why am I saying that this is a related diversification, given the fact that we are in the business of providing packaging solutions? And on top of that, as part of this business model, we are also offering advisory services. So when we are in a position to actually, rather than linking up our customers with vendors of equipment, rather than doing that, if we are in a position to actually offer equipment solutions as part and parcel of our existing business, this is considered as an extension of our current business model. Therefore, this initiative should be considered as a related diversification, because this is related to what we do as a business at the moment. However, although this is a related diversification, because as per what we have learned under your P2 syllabus, whenever a company is pursuing a related diversification, its risk exposure is less. Why am I saying this? Because if we try to do something new, or if we are trying to move into a totally new industry in which we have not operated previously, we are exposed to a lot of uncertainties. So we do not know how the customers are going to react. We do not know how to deal with the stakeholders properly. We do not know whether our business is going to be successful or not, because we are trying to operate within a new business, within a new industry rather, for the first time. So we are exposed to a lot of risks when we pursue unrelated diversification. As opposed to it, when a company explore a related diversification, we are dealing with known dynamics, because we are already providing consultancy services. So when providing consultancy services, we already connect our customers with vendors. So we are already conversant with technical specifications of this equipment, given the fact that we come up with a recommendation, and as per this recommendation, we link customers with vendors. So we have a technical understanding of how this packaging equipment should work. So we have a good understanding. And also, since we have been in operation within this industry for a long period of time, we know the exact needs of customers. And when we know the exact needs of customers, we are in a position to set up this equipment so that customer needs are fulfilled at 100% accuracy and 100% success. So this is a related diversification, but this is although we know about this industry already, this is a totally different line of business, because as an equipment manufacturer, we need to possess different technical capabilities. We need to look into different operational requirements, because things will be quite different to that of what we do when it comes to manufacturing equipment material. When it comes to manufacturing equipment, the operational requirements are quite different, and the success factors tied to an equipment manufacturing business is quite different to what we do at the moment. So we'd have to come up with various different critical success factors, and align with these critical success factors, we will have to come up with a totally new set of key performance indicators, or KPIs, as well. And also, the board may overestimate strategic fit and underestimate complexity of operating this business, because if you look at how a board is going to think about this, any typical board out there is going to jump to take hold of this opportunity without thinking about the downside risks. So this is a good thing to do because this is an extension of our current business, and we are in a position to offer fully fledged solutions to our customers. So the board members will all only think about all the benefits, forgetting about the negativities. So it's essential that you think about these negativities as well, because that's what your job is. You are supposed to highlight all these balanced arguments when providing your services to board members. So the board may overestimate strategic fit and underestimate complexity of operating the business, and therefore, although the board is underestimating the complexities of operating the business, when we try to implement this business in a practical sense within our company, it might pressure our board, because when they have underestimated the operational complexities, they might think that, okay, this is going to take an X amount of time on a weekly basis, so we can dedicate that amount of time. But in a real sense, if it is too complex, it is going to take up the board's time and focus extensively. The board could be distracted, therefore, from our existing core activities. So due to us trying to do something new, it might impact our current business dynamics in an adverse manner. And also, our performance in the current business line could suffer due to this fact. So these are the strategic risks we are exposed to due to us pursuing this related diversification. Then I want to direct your attention towards the operational risks. So as an equipment manufacturer, we are exposed to various different technical as well as operational risks, which are not part and parcel of the core areas of expertise which we possess at the moment. Yes, we do have our own set of machines, but there's no indication that which mentions that we manufactured this equipment by ourselves and set it up by ourselves. Probably we relied on third-party vendors or third-party suppliers. So we do not have any technical capability or operational capability when it comes to manufacturing equipment. So this exposes us to operational or technical risks. So definitely we will lack technical know-how and knowledge about operational capability. What type of technical risks are we exposed to? Because we are clueless of the type of infrastructure needed to run this business without any issues, the type of human capital we need to gain access to, as well as what it takes to design and manufacture reliable and efficient equipment. So we are clueless about these things, which exposes us to technical risks. And also operationally, we'd have to deal with a totally new set of suppliers, and we have to therefore think about upstream supply chain management, because when as an equipment manufacturer, the type of raw material which we'd source will be quite different to that of what we are sourcing from our existing suppliers. So we will have to deal with a new set of suppliers. We will have to deal with these guys to get parts, maintain our machines or the equipment and whatnot. So we have to think about upstream supply chain management initiatives, which exposes us to additional set of operational risks. And we have to think about production planning as well, and we have to ensure that we get everything right. We have to also focus our attention towards quality checks. So the type of quality checks needed in an equipment manufacturing setting will be totally different to what we do at the moment within our own factories. And also, we are in a position we should provide after sales support as well. Just because we sell an equipment to a customer, it does not mean that this equipment might not fail. It does not mean that the customers will have to keep maintaining this equipment. So that is where we have to provide after sales services, which we are not providing at the moment. So if we are exposed to a risk of production delays, poor quality equipment, or a lack of proper after sales services, this leads to bad customer relationships. So these are the type of operational risks which we are exposed to due to this diversification. And also, if we are exposed to production delays, poor quality equipment, or after sales services, this leads to client complaints, dissatisfaction of our customers, and a loss of confidence. This will impact our bottom lines negatively, And when our shareholders get to know about the fact that, this diversification is actually not successful, then it will impact our share price in a negative manner as well. All right. So before I talk about reputational risks, I want to direct your attention towards the financial risk exposure. Because when setting up a new business, this is a significant financial commitment because we have to invest on property, plant, and equipment, invest on latest technology, and recruit specialist staff, which is going to be extremely an extreme financial burden for us. And also, when trying to fund this initiative, we will have to rely on debt and equity. Because as a quoted company, we also have access to equity funding on top of debt. So we'd have to rely on both debt and equity. And if by any chance the demand for our equipment is less or goes against our forecasts, our return on investments will be lesser than projected. And this will in turn impact group profitability and cash flows in a negative manner. And when this happens, when our shareholders get to know about the fact that our profits have decreased, we are not hitting our return on investment targets, as well as our cash flows are negatively impacted, they are going to be dissatisfied. So some of them might end up selling their shares, thereby impacting our share price in a negative manner. So this is our financial risk exposure. And finally, talking about reputational risks, client expectations will definitely be high due to Cartn's history and experience. So clients, when they get to know about the fact that we are also, moving into manufacturing equipment, they would love it because they already love the packaging solutions which we offer to them. So they will love it, given the fact that they need not deal with unknown third parties. Instead, they can deal with Cartn directly. So they will have a lot of expectations concerning the equipment we sell to them. However, we are in a new line of business, and if we are not in a position to offer the same type of quality which we are offering in our current business when it comes to offering packaging solutions, if you are not in a position to offer the same type of quality when it comes to equipment solutions, this will lead to dissatisfaction. And this therefore will damage confidence in the equipment manufacturing business. And this damage in confidence is going to impact our existing business, which is tied to packaging solutions. So this will impact trust in Cartn's wider offering of the group, as well as our wider expertise. This will impact our current business dynamics, which are running without any hiccups as per the pre-scene. So due to this new related diversification, this might impact our brand or our reputation adversely if this new equipment manufacturing business is not managed properly. And this reputation damage is in this new line of business would impact the other lines of business or the existing lines of business adversely as well. So this is how you should integrate theory knowledge with application. And when it comes to application, I've relied on the exact information which appears within the unseen. And also, I directed your attention towards the pre-scene when I was explaining as to why this is considered as a related diversification. So you need to combine theory, application, as well as pre-scene information when developing your answers in a highly successful manner. So that's exactly what I've achieved when developing this answer plan. So that's why, rather than trying to type your final answer in paragraph form right after reading through the scenario, that's why it's essential to spend an appropriate level of time, 20 minutes per section, to develop the answer plan, to plan out your answer, because that's exactly what you do in a real life corporate environment. If you get a complex email, you will spend some time to structure your answer to ensure that you have addressed the requirements, and you have considered all the information which is contained within the email. So that's the exact same thing which you're supposed to do at your exam. And so that's the fourth step as per our answering technique. And the fifth and final step is to expand the answer plan in paragraph form. And when it comes to expanding the answer plan, you are supposed to take 15 to 20 minutes of your time. And when expanding the answer plan, simply connect each of these points, come up with filler words and connect each of these points and form a paragraph. So that's exactly what you can see in here. your final answer should look something like this. Okay, so that's how you should deal with your answering and time management technique. So as I mentioned earlier, just because you have learned these two techniques, you are not in a position to adhere to these techniques or implement these two techniques successfully at your exam. Instead, you need to practice these two techniques in order to get your bearings with them. Because although I'm reiterating this point, which was mentioned previously, although I'm expecting you to develop the answer plan within just 20 minutes, when you try to do it for the first time, you are definitely going to take 35 to 40 minutes. But with practice, by the time you are done with 3 mock exams, you will gain the confidence about the fact that you have the ability of developing the answer plan within just 20 minutes. Therefore, you will gain the ability to expand the answer plan in paragraph form within just 15 to 20 minutes. So it's essential that you practice these skills before you walk into your exam. That is why we have replicated the Pearson VUE system, which gives you the opportunity to practice these two techniques under real exam conditions. All right, so I invite you to practice these two techniques when attempting mock number 1 via TCS's exam platform. I showed you how you can gain access to this exam platform a while back. And I'm happy to say that we achieved an 88% pass rate concerning November 2025 exams. We are still in the process of accumulating all the information concerning or the exam results concerning the MCS exams which happened in February 2026. The results were released just yesterday. So we are still in the process of collecting all the information, reaching out to our students. And by next week, hopefully, we are in a position to communicate the new pass rate with you. So if you stick to our study process, you can definitely pass, because this is a tried and tested process. This is a logical process, because you need to stick to a 3-step approach with the intention of mastering each mock exam. And by sticking to these 3 steps, you are taking steps to practice your answering, time management, and stress management under exam conditions. You are taking steps to learn theory and application. And then you are also taking steps to revise your knowledge by redeveloping answer plans on your own. So having said that, it brings us to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can switch on your mic and talk, or drop a message via the chat. You now have the opportunity of unmuting your mics. I think, have we received any questions? Not as yet. Okay, any questions, folks?
So I wanted to ask regarding the setting of the system. Like you said, you duplicated how it actually looks, right? So I wanted to know, because I saw that you included like the pre-scene tab on the screen. Will it be given as well on exam, or it's just something that you put there for us to like kind of refer to when we are attempting our first mock?
Well, give me a second, please.
Okay, no problem.
So the stuff which you see within our exam platform is the exact same when you consider the Pearson VUE system. So at the exam, you have access to the pre-scene, because you're not supposed to carry any documents with you or have any stationery with you. So the examiner never expects you to remember everything which appears within the pre-scene, because the pre-scene goes on for 25 to 30 pages. So that is why you have access to the pre-scene document within the exam platform itself. So you will see the same 4 buttons at your exam. You will see the same type of a timer, a section number, as well as the same type of an answer screen, which carry access to all these various different information concerning reference material, the unseen information, as well as the pre-scene. Because the objective of Pearson developing this type of a system is to ensure that you have the opportunity of accessing all information within one single place, rather than having to shift between pages. Okay, so this is how the Pearson system works. We have replicated or we have developed the exact replica to make sure that you have the opportunity of getting your bearings with the exam platform, and you have the opportunity of mastering answering time management and stress management under real exam conditions. Got it?
Okay, thank you. Yes,
You're
I got
welcome.
it.
Tejas is asking a question. Is it okay if I watch the master classes first, attempt the mock exams where I'll write my own version of the answer and then redevelop the answer based on the sample answers provided? Well, we discourage this because if when you know the answer, what's the point of attempting a mock under exam conditions? Because the objective of us asking you guys to attempt a mock under exam conditions is to ensure that you are exposed to stressful situations. So definitely, you are going to struggle with certain subtasks which you are clueless about. When you're clueless about the answer, you are definitely going to panic. And when you panic, you will experience brain freeze. So I want you guys to experience all these things whenever you are attempting a mock under exam conditions, because if not, you are going to face them for the first time at your exam. Okay. So I want you to face all these problems so that you are exposed to these issues, therefore you know how to deal with these stressors. Because as I mentioned earlier, the examiner is not just testing your theory knowledge and application, the examiner is also testing your stress management capabilities at this exam. Okay, so that's why it's essential that you practice mocks without referring to any of the answers, because you can always refine your answers when you're conducting revision. So that's why I said that you need to adhere to a 3-step approach. And the first step is not focused on improving your knowledge. It's simply a matter of practicing each mock with the intention of practicing your answering time management and stress management. Okay, then you can learn theory and application when you're watching the master classes. And once you have watched the master classes, you are supposed to redevelop answer plans. And when you're redeveloping answer plans, you are not wasting time to expand your answers. Instead, you're simply trying to come up with the same type of points on your own. Because when you're trying to refine your answering technique, you should focus on logic rather than trying to come up with answers in paragraph form. Because if you get your logic right, then it is extremely easy when it comes to expanding your answer points in paragraph form, because you just need to explain each point. Okay, so that's the study process which we are urging you to stick to, especially given the fact that for focused on mocks 4 and 6, you are getting tutor feedback. What's the point of marking your paper if you had gone through the answer? Because then we are not in a position to really figure out what your shortcomings are. The objective of opting for tutor feedback should be to understand your shortcomings. So that's why you should attempt each mock without going through any of the answers, so that you definitely struggle. It's good to struggle right now than to struggle at your real examination. I hope I addressed your concerns, Tehas. And Janaka is asking a question. Useful session again a lot today, but confusion is IFRS S1 and S2 is not in mocks. So we developed 6 mock exams, Janaka. So this is just the first mock exam. So we cannot contain all 60 questions within one single mock. So at the very beginning of the session, I said that you need to attempt our 6 mock exams to cover all 60 questions. So definitely if S1 and S2 related elements cannot be contained within the first mock itself. These are contained within the remaining mock exams, which come under the paid content. If I'm not mistaken, S1 and S2 is covered under the 4th mock exam. I cannot remember because I'm involved with SCS mock exam preparation right now. But yeah, I think it was included in mock 4 or mock 5. Okay, so it's there. We rest assured, we have covered the entire syllabus, which includes the new add-ons to your syllabus. I hope I addressed your concern. Anything else, folks?
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Nikki. Now that we are given 45 minutes to complete like section one, the
Mm-hmm.
the answer plan, we have to complete the answer plans for the two questions. That is when you can do the paragraphing for the two of them.
Yes. So do you have any doubt about it?
Now I want to know, we have to complete the answer plan for the two questions at a time. Then that is when you go to the
Okay.
paragraphing.
Okay. I get your query. So yes.
Mm.
So as per our answering technique, you are supposed to first develop the answer plan focused on, if there are two subtasks, you have to develop an answer plan focused on both subtasks. So you have to develop the first answer plan as well as the second answer plan within 20 to 25 minutes. Once you're done with it, then you should direct your attention towards expanding the answer plan. Okay, because I don't want you to develop the answer plan for the first subtask and then focus your attention towards expanding, because if you do so, you might run out of time when it comes to the second section, because once you have developed the answer plan, you will spend a lot of time to explain each and every point in depth, which is not necessary. So what you need to really do is to develop the answer plan within 20 to 25 minutes, covering all subtasks which appear within the section, and then direct your attention towards expanding. When you do so, you won't try to come up with additional points on top of what already appears here, and you won't try to over explain your points. Instead, you keep things simple, because you know for a fact that you just have 15 to 20 minutes to expand the entire answer plan. Okay, so that's the process which we recommend. I hope I was clear.
Yes, answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Tejas, you have raised your hand. How may I assist you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm asking too many questions here.
No, no, no.
I just have a question there. When you're going through the subtask one there regarding the business risk, you mentioned that there should be like I should mention about strategic risk, operations risk, financial and reputational risk. So my question is, how do I know how many, like what points to add under each title there? Because like if we are expanding into manufacturing of machinery there, I was also thinking that there would be a significant investment, a capex investment there, which will affect our WACC, and the money will have to come out of our retained earnings, so that will affect our dividends as well, and then it will require hiring staff who are specialized in manufacturing. So a lot of HR involvement needs to be there as well. So how do I know how to segment all of that into those 4 points there?
Well, about HR, you said that we have to rely on additional recruitments, which should be considered under the technical elements, because I've already mentioned it in here. We need human capital to design and manufacture reliable and efficient equipment. So that part is already covered. And you were talking about WSCC. If you want, you can include such information under financial risks, because you need to think about the categorization. So, okay, I'm going to talk about HR. Okay, where does HR fall? Does it come under strategic risks, operational, financial, or reputation? Definitely, it has everything to do with operations. So include such information under operational risks. And if you want to talk about WSEC, does it fall under strategic, operational, financial, or reputation? Definitely financial. So talk about it under financial risks. Got it?
Okay, and capex and all of that, I think would come under strategic ones, right?
Not exactly. I would actually, talk about the capex under financial risks, because as you can see in here, I've mentioned about investments in property, plant, and equipment, capex, adoption of latest technology, investments needed on latest technology, capex, and recruitment of specialist staff has to do with operational expenses, or OPEX. So I've already spoken about, without naming them, I've already spoken about the capex, and also I've mentioned about the return on investment. So we are investing on PPE and technology in terms of CapEx. And whenever there is a CapEx investment, we should think about the ROIs. So I've mentioned the fact that if we are not really successful in this new line of business, it will impact our sales growth as well as forecasts. Therefore, when we are not adhering to our forecasts, we are not going to adhere to the forecasted return on investment or the investment targets as well. So, I've mentioned this point within this answer itself, but I've not utilized the word capex, but the logic is the same. Am I clear?
Yeah, thanks very much.
You're welcome. Anything else, folks? One of you was asking about S1 and S2. Janaka, did I address your concern? I hope you're not confused anymore. All right, superb. Anything else, folks? All right, seems like there aren't any questions. So if you want to contact us, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. Visit our website and click on the contact button and drop us a message. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours, or you can directly email us at info@study@tcs.com. Or if you are in need of instantaneous support, drop me a message via this WhatsApp number. I'm always there to help you guys out. So I urge you to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok, because via YouTube, you'd gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops. And via TikTok, you'd gain access to the video version of our pre-scene mind map. So I've already shared this document with you, the PDF form of the pre-scene mind map, which essentially covers all the information, the main information which is contained within the pre-scene. So at the exam, you do have access to your pre-scene document, but it eases your pains at your exam, because rather than having to read through the pre-scene, wasting a lot of your time, if you take steps to memorize pre-scene information when conducting your preparations, then it will help you immensely to gain an in-depth understanding of the internals and externals of your company and remember pre-scene info, most importantly, on the day of your exam. So that is why we have already shared this with you guys. You can download this via our student dashboard as well. So on a daily basis, either go through this document or go through the 6 TikTok videos so that you are constantly keeping yourself reminded of the most important points highlighted within the pre-scene. And also, please read our blog post as well if you're yet to, because we have developed a good blog post highlighting the internals and externals of your company in a nutshell. All right, so make use of these free resources. So I thank you for attending this session. I hope you gained an in-depth understanding of how to develop answers and how to manage time. And at the same time, at the very beginning of this session, I mentioned about the type of pitfalls which leads to a failure. I hope you understood what your shortcomings were previously. If you are a retaker and if you are sitting for this exam for the first time, it's essential that you take steps to avoid these pitfalls when conducting preparations. So I hope you will listen to the solutions which we offered and take steps to conduct your preparations in a stress-free environment, adhering to our study plan. Because if you do so, you are poised to score more than 100 marks at your exam. Because if you look at the highest scorer last time, this individual attempted the exam previously and ended up scoring 78. But utilizing our resources and adhering to our study plan, achieved 106. So if this individual could do it, so can you. So start your preparations right now. We have already shared all the resources with you. Stick to the study plan, and whenever you need our help, drop me a message. I'm always there to help you. So thank you for joining. I'll see you guys next Sunday, in which I'm going to teach you crucial stress management techniques and also take you through the examiner's comments. Thank you for joining. I'll see you guys next week, and I take this opportunity to wish you guys a happy Easter. See you and take care.